Now let's get a broader overview of the Maya interface. So let's just start at the top and we'll kind of work our way around what it is that we're seeing here. So at the very top, you'll see a menu, very familiar to you if you've used any sort of software at all. File, edit, and then it gets into create, select, and it gets more specialized as we move over to the right-hand side. Now this menu is consistent, at least the first part of it is, but the last part will change based on the menu set that we're looking at. And the menu set can be chosen from this little drop down right over here on the left side. Right now it says modeling, but you see if I click on there, you can see that we can change that to rigging. And you can see that as we change the menu set that we're in, some of the menus will change. Some of them will get longer. For instance, in effects, you can see we have a lot of menu items here. If we go into rendering, you can see we don't have as many. And back to modeling, you can also customize that. But those are defined by the menu set that we're currently in. And that is driven by what it is that you're trying to do. So if we're going to be doing some modeling, we'll probably stay in the modeling menu set. Now to the right of this, you can see here some icons for some very common file operations that we want to do. So we've got save, open, we've got undo, redo, that sort of thing located right here. Again, these are also mirrored inside of our menus. These little dividers here, you can see some of them look like they have little lines here, then this one has a little arrow. So you can see that with a little arrow I can click on this and I can expand different parts of this status line is what this line is called. And so you can come over here and you can see here are different things that we can or are able to select. So if we want to be able to select joints, we can have that turned on. I can minimize that. Here's some snapping options. You can tell that by the little magnet. So it defines what we want to snap to. Coming over here, we can open this up. And this kind of lets us go through our input. So Maya is a node-based software. So we have our objects and everything really defined by nodes that have upstream and downstream connections, and we can navigate those here. But let's turn that off for now. These little slates here define our render options. So we can do a render, we can go into render settings and so forth. And then if we come over here, we can open up the Hypershade, which will allow us to create materials and so forth. And then we've got some new options coming in as we come over here. So this is our Viewport 2.0 display, and then we've got a new light editor and a render setup window. Okay, this is going to show you, if you're logged into your Autodesk account, it's going to show you your license information there. And then also your workspace here. So right now we're in Maya Classic, but we can change our workspace. This is not just changing the menu like the menu set, but it would actually change what it is, how the interface is laid out. So right now we're in Maya Classic, but you could go to Maya Modeling Advanced and so forth to get different layouts. Now moving down here, these are our shelves, and the icons that are on these are our shelf buttons. So we have our shelves dedicated to different things. So this one's dedicated to polygons. So we've got our primitives here, and then we've got a lot of the polygon modeling tools located on the same shelf. It's just some of the menu items placed for quick reference and for the ability to select those very quickly. You can see here's one for NURBS, curves and surfaces. Here's our polygon one. We've also got some sculpting tools that we can use. We've got one dedicated to rigging, animation, rendering, effects, and you can create your own custom shelves. Here's one that lets us move back and forth between the ZBrush. Here's our XGen shelf. You can create your own. You can put your own, if you're using Mel, you can put your own Mel scripts into shelves, or you can put existing tools into your own shelf. Things that you're going to use really often, you can do that with those. So let's move over now to the right-hand side. We've got these three tabs here. We've got the Channel Box Layer Editor. We've got the Modeling Toolkit, and we've got the Attribute Editor. Let's go ahead and bring in an object again. So we'll bring in that sphere again. And so with that sphere selected, in our Channel Box Layer Editor at the top, you can see we have a list of numbers. So translate, translate, rotate, rotate, scale, scale, scale. Remember we talked about any object being able to be defined in 3D space by 3 different numbers. So this is where those 3 different numbers are going to live. Translate is going to be where it's located in 3D space. So think of that as the movement or the position. And that's in X, Y, and Z. So this lets us know the value of where that is along that X-axis, where it is along the Y-axis, and where it is along the Z-axis. So if I move this, and by hitting the W key, I can activate the Move tool, which is over here on the left. and I can move this over. You can see now I'm moving it in the X by dragging on the red handle. Dragging on the green handle moves it in the Y. Blue handle moves it in the Z. So now it's offset from the center, which is 0, 0, 0, in 3 different directions. And you can see those number values there. We can also rotate it. So we can go to rotate and add some values there, or we can scale it and add some values in there. The default scale is 1. That means it's 100% of the original scale. Those hotkeys for that, again, W to move or translate, E will rotate your model, R will scale. And you can select the middle handle, or you can select a particular handle to just scale in one direction. Same thing with rotate. If you want to grab just one of these handles on the gizmo, you can rotate it in a particular direction, or we can do a free rotate. Okay, so all those values are kept here in our channel box. Now down below the channel box is our layer editor. This is where we can create display layers. So if I have an object that I want to turn off the visibility of, but I still want to keep it in the scene, I can put it into a layer here. Now the modeling toolkit is the next tab down. It's going to just contain some more extensive modeling tools that we will hopefully get into a little bit later. The attribute editor is going to give you information about your selected object. So you can see we have tabs up here that show you sort of those nodes attached to that object. So we've got a shape node and we've got a transform node, and all those contain different pieces of information that we can modify. That's going to be our attribute editor. Also, alternatively, Control A will bring up the attribute editor, and if you want to have that as a floating window, you can just drag this off and move it around. Same thing with any of those other tabs. Okay, and then we can drop it back on there if we want to. So you can customize the experience however you like. Now down here at the bottom, here we have our animation controls. So this is where our timeline is. So think of if we have an animation from 1 to 200 frames, this is where it lives, and we can scroll through that. We don't have any animation right now, but we also have kind of a range slider where we can see which frames are we currently looking at. We have playback controls down here and the ability to go in and change our animation preferences. We also have the ability to use MelScript, so if we want to do some scripting, we can do that in here, or we can jump into the script editor here and take a look at anything that we're running inside of Maya. Now if we come up to the left, this is where we can change some of our layouts. So we can change our viewport layouts here, and then we have our transform tools here along with selection tools. So we can go ahead and get select, and then again W, E, R will toggle through our transform tools, and then Q will bring you back to select, and then we have another type of selection here, lasso and paint selection tool. Okay, and then within that viewport we also have lots of options just on how things are displayed and so forth. But that's kind of a quick overview of the interface as a whole, so hopefully you get a better idea of kind of where some of these things live and where we're going to find some of the information that we need. So the next thing that we're going to do is create a Maya project. That's how we're going to organize all of the data that we're going to be using for whatever it is that we're working on in Maya. It just keeps everything consolidated because we're going to be bringing in, scene files and textures and image files and things like that. We want to keep them all in one nice location. So let's go in the next lesson and talk about creating a new project.